Valentine's Day. For some reason, I keep forgetting that it's Valentine's Day today. I'm Julie, and this is my sister, Carrie, and we are the founders of A Natural Shift. We come to you every Wednesday at 12:30 with a new health and wellness related topic. And as you may know from last week, this whole month is going to be about heart health and how we can keep our hearts in the best shape possible. Last week, we talked about nutrition and just some tweaks that we could make in our diet to healthy up our hearts a little bit and not just our overall bodies. This week, we are going to talk about plant-based solutions. So we're going to be talking some about essential oils and supplements and food as well. But we're really going to hone in on two issues that a lot of people face. And if you don't necessarily yourself face these issues, I bet you know of a family member who does or a friend. And it's just good things to incorporate to prevent yourself from having what I'm referring to is high blood pressure and high cholesterol. So that's what we're going to really focus in on today. So I'm going to start by talking about how to maintain a healthy blood pressure. And I want to talk first about things that we can modify in our diet, just some simple choices that we can make that can really make big differences in the long term. Salt's the biggest thing we think of when we think of blood pressure. You know, I have patients ask me a lot, what can I eat that will be better for my blood pressure? And we will talk about some foods that are good to incorporate. But really the biggest thing that most people struggle with is eating a diet that's high in salt. I mean, have you guys ever looked at the labels as in terms of how much sodium? I mean, that's what you would look for on the label of food is sodium. That's your salt content. I mean, it's just outrageous, especially in your processed and your packaged foods. And that's why you really want to just eat a diet that's more fresh or based on fresh ingredients versus processed or boxed food, because that's where all your salt's going to come in.
And oftentimes, I was just thinking about something. I feel like people think that they're going to have to give up something or that it's not going to be as good. But you can make stuff that tastes really good that maybe be considered like junk food, like for say like French fries or something like that. You can totally like make your own and they're good and they're way healthier. I'm not saying that's the healthiest thing you could eat, but just little things that you can do like that would really make a big difference. And you still feel satisfied and not feel like you're giving up, your whole diet.
Definitely. And you know what? That is actually a really good point, talking about feeling satisfied. When you eat, I don't know, I've noticed this, and it's probably because I don't eat things like this, anymore very often. But if I ever do, like, let's say I went to Chick-fil-A and I ate some fries, I literally feel so like I can't get satisfied. And it's because of all of the salt and the chemicals, that they put in the food. So when we eat things like fast food or processed food, it actually, your body's not getting that nutrition that it needs to feel satisfied. And so you're actually more hungry. And so, of course, that leads to other issues with weight management and that kind of thing. So it's just funny how that works when you start putting less than desirable things in your body,
And you won't really notice that until you try to start cleaning up your diet and you eat that way. And then you'll go back to eating something and think, whoa, kind of like we were talking about last week about the sugar, kind of the same thing with the salt. And it makes my stomach hurt. I know that I don't know why that is. And it makes me really thirsty. So, that's definitely the things that I feel when I eat something that's really salty.
And that too, talking about kind of like side effects, so to speak, I get almost an instant headache, almost like I do with sugar if I eat too much salt. And that's probably because my blood pressure is elevating and I'm not used to having, an elevated blood pressure. So just some kind of warning signs that your body will send you to say, hey, this isn't cool. This isn't good for me. Don't do this to me, Well,
it's interesting that you say that because a lot of times people don't see that necessarily. They see it in like the blood pressure is elevated all the time. But that's because you're constantly feeding your body that. And like, it's kind of is like, well, she's not listening to these subtle signals. So I'm just going to have to give her like a really big signal. So that's why it's really important to listen to your body. And really the way that you do that is just be intentional about what you put in it. And eventually you'll be able to see those signs really a lot sooner and a lot easier, I would say.
Yes, absolutely. So incorporating more of those fresh fruits and vegetables. And in terms of when you use salt on your food, it's really good to get like a sea salt or even a kosher salt, table salt, which is like the iodinized salt that you might be familiar with. That actually has a much higher sodium content in it. So I found this so interesting. So I was watching this show. It was like a cooking show. I mean, I love cooking shows. So I just like to watch people create things. It's just fun. And so I was watching it one day and there was a chef on there and he was talking about the fact that a lot of people see how chefs season their food and they think, oh my gosh, they use so much salt. But they use like high quality salt, which I'm talking about like sea salt and like I said, kosher salt, things that you can buy right in the regular grocery store. And it has much less actual sodium content. So that's why they use that. It just brings out more flavor. It looks like they're using a ton, but they're really not, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense because I used to think that too. But there is a lot of difference if you were to just actually taste regular like table salt and then a kosher salt. It's just a different, I don't know, it gives a different flavor, I guess.
It does, and you can tell it's way salty.
Yeah, it's way less salty.
I don't buy table salt, but if I'm ever anywhere and I want to use some, I just know, like, tell myself, don't use very much because it's going to be overpowering. Okay, so the next thing, trans fats. I mean, these are like the worst type of fat that you can possibly put in your body because it actually gets into your blood vessels and almost, this is the way I like to think about it, almost creates this like concrete effect. So basically it's hard to remove. You can actually have some removal of plaque and things from your blood vessels by eating healthy foods and that type thing. But these trans fats, they are kind of there, they're deposited, they stay there and just obviously very unhealthy for you. This would be in stuff like baked goods, cookies, and it also turns on a lot of inflammation in your body. And remember, that's where most all diseases start, is with that inflammatory process.
Hello, Valentine's Day, right? Everybody is probably going to eat something, chocolate or a cookie today, unless you're doing the whole 30. And then you're not.
You're not.
I'm getting my chocolate fix by my smoothie today.
Oh, yes. I just did that. That's exactly what I just did.
Delicious.
It is. I know. It's delicious. That was my next thing was sugar. Ideally, we want to stay under about 26 grams. If you look at the sugar content, that's in like one soft drink. I mean, it's insane the amount of sugar that we consume. And I think a lot of people just aren't aware of how much sugar is in their food. So that's something really to pay attention to. In terms of blood pressure, a lot of people ask me about caffeine and is it okay to have caffeine? It is okay to have caffeine. Now, some people are more sensitive to the effects of caffeine than others. So back to Carrie's point, make sure that you listen to your own body. But you should really kind of stick to around 200 milligrams of caffeine, and that's equivalent to about 2 cups of coffee. Okay. Nobody really needs more than 2 cups of coffee. I mean, it dehydrates you. I love coffee. Don't get me wrong. If I could drink 5 cups a day, I would, but I know better. I know that it's, not good for me. So I definitely have my 2 cups, but, I try to limit it to that. And alcohol. Alcohol was the next one that we kind of want to, steer away from, especially if you have a blood pressure problem. Alcohol not only can lead to excess calories, but it can raise the blood pressure. So 1 drink or less a day, you want to at least stick to that goal. All right, now foods that can actually help you to maintain a better and healthier blood pressure. We talked about low sodium foods like fruits and vegetables. But what about potassium? A lot of people don't know that you actually need a normal healthy potassium level to maintain a healthy blood pressure. Mm-hmm. So what would be some foods that have high potassium? Avocados. And avocados are they're a superfood. They have healthy fats, they have fiber, and then they have potassium in them. Bananas is one that most people think of right away. oranges, sweet potatoes, all of those are great foods to incorporate into your diet, and they have higher levels of potassium. Okay, the next thing, and I know Carrie is going to talk about this one a little bit when we talk about supplements, but omega fatty acids, those are the healthy fats that you really want to get more and more of in your diet. Remember, fat is not the enemy. It's really sugar that's the enemy. As long as it's a healthy fat, that's a good thing for your body. So we recommend that everyone take an omega supplement. I recommend that to my patients in my cardiac practice. I mean, you can't get enough in your diet, really, for the amount that you need. Not only is it good for cardiovascular health, you have to have omegas for good immune health, brain health, joint health. I mean, it's just good overall. Things like salmon, flaxseed oil, chia seeds, walnuts, almonds, all of those delicious foods, you can get some omegas in as well in your diet. And this is probably my absolute favorite of all on the list. Can't believe it's on the list, even though Carrie and I cannot partake in any right now because we're doing Whole30. But we will once we're done with and that's dark chocolate. I would encourage you, if you're somebody who likes chocolate, but you're like a milk chocolate semi-sweet, just transition over to dark chocolate, because dark chocolate has antioxidants in it, and it's extremely beneficial to your body, of course, in moderation. We're not talking about loads of dark chocolate. But the higher the cocoa content, the more antioxidants you get. So you could just start with something like a 60% or a 50%, and then go up further if you're not used to that taste. Okay, one last thing that I want to mention that's so important, not only for blood pressure, but also for maintaining a healthy cholesterol, and that is, of course, exercise. But don't think about this like exercise. Think about it just like movement. Like, move your body. Our bodies were made to move. They weren't made to be stagnant and just sit. So the more you move, you'll actually find that you have more energy and you feel better. Yeah. And I think Carrie's going to talk about some essential oils that if you do have a problem with your blood pressure, not being at a normal level, that you might want to start incorporating into your routine.
Yeah, sure. And for those of you that don't know, Julie is a nurse practitioner, and she works in a cardiology practice. So she's very knowledgeable about this subject. So just thanks for sharing all your knowledge, because I know that you have a lot tucked in that pretty little brain of yours.
I don't know.
So I'll be talking a little bit about how we can use plant-based things to help us with our blood pressure. Now, I will say, when we're talking about all of these things, these are all tools that we can use. But I honestly do not think anything can override what you put in your mouth. So if you don't look at that, you can use these tools and they will help, but you won't truly probably be where you want to be or feel the best that you can unless you really look at what you put into your body, which is obviously what you eat. So I wanted to obviously share a few things that you can do as far as oils and supplements to help decrease your blood pressure. So I'll go through a few oils and give you a few blends you can also use, and then we'll talk about supplements. So first we're going to do the healthy blood pressure. All right, so just going to run through the list. Ylang ylang it's a very nice floral scent. I love the way it smells, but it can be very relaxing and calming. So you can use that one in a diffuser. You can use it topically, maybe on your wrist or the bottom of your feet. And you can also use this one internally, and I would suggest a veggie capsule, because I doubt it would taste that great. But you can use it internally as well. Marjoram, this one actually vasodilates your blood vessels. They can calm your blood vessels. It can be used all three ways as well. Lavender, we know that's calming. That has a lot of sedative effects and relaxing qualities, and can be used all three ways.
Can I mention one thing about lavender just real quick? So I've had multiple personal testimonies, not personal, but testimonies from people that I know in terms of using lavender for if they had some elevated blood pressure. They would take lavender, 5 drops in a veggie capsule, and would bring the blood pressure down like almost immediately within, 15 minutes or so. And so I've had people using that, if they had issues with blood pressure going up from time to time. So I just wanted to mention that because it is very powerful.
Right. And they're starting to do a lot of studies on this as well, about essential oils in general, but definitely on lavender is one that's studied a lot, along with frankincense that we'll talk about as well. So these aren't just, yes, I love personal testimonies, but I also love to see scientific studies as well, just so we can have, those two things to back up that these actually do work. They're not just a pretty scent. So the next one is lemongrass. It reduces inflammation. So you can use it in a lot of other different ways and for different things, but it does help with blood pressure because of that. You can use it the 3 ways as well. And when we're talking about using these, especially internally, we're only talking about doTERRA because the quality and the purity and all of that. So just make sure you're getting, getting a good brand especially when you're talking about using them all 3 ways. Frankincense is, obviously, we've heard us talk a lot about this one, and this one's one that you've probably heard of, even if you don't know a lot about essential oils, but it really helps reduce inflammation. So, it can be used all those 3 ways to help reduce your blood pressure. And then finally, lemon. Lemon's a detoxifier, so it can help with just getting the things out that may be causing our high blood pressure. So that one's great too. You can use it all 3 ways, but we love to put it in our water. It's a really easy and tasty, in my opinion, way to use lemon. So here are a few blends that you can use that incorporate some of these essential oils. And, we talk a lot about taking baths. I think that's a great way to just relax. Obviously, that would bring your blood pressure down. So here's a blend for you. Ylang ylang, marjoram, and frankincense. Now, of course, you could just put 1 drop of each in your bath, or if you wanted to use it during the day, you could put it in a roller bottle. So we'll post these recipes also. So 10 drops of ylang ylang, 5 of marjoram, and 5 of frankincense, and then you would fill the rest of a roller bottle up with carrier oil, and you could roll that over your heart, on your wrist, or great places to put this blend to help decrease your blood pressure. Now, the second blend would be lemongrass and lavender. So 10 drops of each of those in a roller bottle, filled all the way up with coconut oil, and then again, you could roll it over your heart or on your wrist. Now, lastly, one internal blend that you can take would be 3 drops of marjoram and 3 drops of lavender in a veggie capsule. You would take that 1 to 2 times a day. And as Julie said, there's been some awesome results, especially with lavender. So marjoram is one that people don't think about a lot as well, but I've heard a lot of people say that they've had great results with that one too. So, everybody's different. I would definitely start maybe with lavender and then try some of these other ones and just see what works best for you. You're just going to have to kind of use it, see how you feel, take your blood pressure if it's, constantly elevated and kind of go from there. But these can be very supportive. Now, lastly, 3 oils to avoid if you have elevated blood pressure. And when I say avoid, I don't mean completely avoid probably, but I wouldn't use a lot of these oils because they can increase your blood pressure a little because they are kind of stimulating. So the first one is peppermint, second is thyme, and third is rosemary. So again, just don't use these overly a lot. That's not really the best way to say that, but if they're in a blend or if you use them topically, occasionally, I think that would be fine, but you wouldn't want to take these maybe internally on a regular basis because it may have some elevated properties to your blood pressure. Okay, so supplements are oils that help maintain a healthy cholesterol. And, these 2 things, especially cholesterol, sometimes it's genetic. And I've heard of people say, I just don't know what else to do. I've maybe modified my diet. It just runs in my family. These are things you can do that will help, especially if it's something that you're already doing some diet modifications for. These are great things to add in to then just bring it down even more and keep it at a healthy level. So supplements first, and really, obviously, this supplement that I'll talk about, it would be good for cholesterol and for blood pressure, and that is a Lifelong Vitality Pack. This supplement pack is one that we've talked about before, and if you guys are familiar with doTERRA or anything like that, you've probably heard of it. This supplement will just bring your body back to balance at a very basic level. It just helps to level out things. It helps to, decrease things that are elevated, bring up things that are lower. It just really helps to create a state of balance in your body by reducing inflammation and things like that. So obviously it's going to help with both the blood pressure and cholesterol. So we recommend this, and especially like Julie said with the omegas, there is an omega complex and supplement in this pack of 3. And that is just huge for a lot of different processes in your body, but you need that healthy fat to, it's the building blocks and the foundation of a lot. So that really does make a big difference when you think, well, why would I need more fats in my diet when I'm trying to control my cholesterol? And it just seems kind of counterintuitive, but there's definitely a lot of research out there. And Julie actually has some great testimonies about seeing, people, she's recommended to patients and just have seen their labs improve a ton. So you want to tell people a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, and even myself, not that I had, high cholesterol by, and this is what's interesting, by guidelines. I mean, we go by American Heart Association standards and guidelines, but it was higher than I wanted it to be. We all have kind of our personal goals and things. Mm-hmm. And when I started taking the Lifelong Vitality Pack, consistently, then, this was several years ago, I saw a decrease. I have my labs, and I can't remember all of the exact numbers right offhand, but my bad cholesterol, that's the biggest one that, can lead to issues like heart disease. The bad cholesterol dropped by, I want to say, 40 or 50 points. Like, that's insane. And it's actually funny. So I have several patients that I put, on Lifelong Vitality Pack. And if it's someone who already had an issue with elevated blood pressure or elevated cholesterol, then we also added lemongrass in a capsule, 5 drops of lemongrass. And that is very supportive to maintaining a healthy cholesterol. Mm-hmm. So that would be, if this is something that you suffer from, I would encourage you to do both, the Lifelong Vitality Pack, and then, add the lemongrass. But one of the physicians that I work with even said, wow, that's better than, he mentioned some medications. And I was like, yeah, he was, really shocked. And so,
that doesn't lie, right? If you get a blood work, it's just crazy.
Numbers don't lie, right? Yeah. But you know what? Another thing too, I just want to mention about anything that we're recommending, whether it is something in your diet, or it's a supplement, or it's an essential oil, consistency is key. Mm-hmm. Because if I do something just kind of here and there, I can't expect to get the results that I really desire unless I'm putting forth the effort and being consistent, whether it's taking my Lifelong Vitality Pack or committing to moving my body 5 days a week, whatever that is, whatever that looks like for you. Just take small steps in making it a part of your routine and your daily habit, and then you will see the results, but you've got to be consistent.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that definitely, I guess I forget that because I just have seen what a big change I've made in my own life just through consistency, but definitely always be consistent in these choices and you will see results. So essential oils to help with healthy cholesterol. Lavender that we already mentioned, frankincense, like Julie mentioned, lemongrass is great for this. That's probably the top one a lot of times that you'll see recommended for cholesterol is lemongrass. Marjoram and cypress are great for circulation, so that also helps with that. And then the metabolic blend, also known as lemon sassy, can really help to cleanse the liver, which again would help to hopefully reduce and bring your cholesterol to a healthy level. Now, there's some blends that you can put in a veggie capsule, so I'll give you one of those. You can do the lemongrass, like Julie suggested, alone, or you can add in frankincense. So you could do 3 drops of lemongrass in a capsule by itself, or you could do 3 drops of lemongrass and 3 drops of frankincense. One more is lemongrass and marjoram. So you could do 3 drops of lemongrass and 2 of marjoram in a veggie capsule. And you could take that probably 1 to 2 times a day, would you say?
Yes, I would say once or twice a day, based on how much reduction you really needed. And you can do up to 5 drops of the lemongrass alone. So, between 3, you could start out with 3, right, and then increase if you had the need to.
Yeah, and just like with anything, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You know, I think some people tend to be like, oh, I'm going to try this for a week, or I'm going to try this, you know, for a couple of days. This doesn't really work like that. You know, you may see results maybe even from what you eat, or if you incorporated essential oil or supplement. You can see some results in a week, I would say, or maybe even a couple of days. But to kind of get on top of a bigger problem like this, like hormones or like cholesterol or, you know, blood pressure that they're talking about, it's going to take a good, I would say, you know, 3 weeks to a month to probably see some good results. I mean, you just have to be consistent over a long period of time, because that is a larger kind of, I guess, overall body issue rather than just like a targeted acute issue. So just keep that in mind when you think about making some of these changes.
Yeah, and that's a good point. If we are trying to, I'll just kind of give you an idea. If we were going to place someone on a medication, you know, for cholesterol, then we would not even recheck blood work for 4 to 6 weeks, because it's going to take, you know, that amount of time. But if we were doing just lifestyle changes, we will actually give 3 to 4 months, not because you're not going to see changes earlier, like you said, but really for people to be able to get into that habit of, you know, whatever modifications it is that they're making, you know, they need that amount of time to really incorporate it and kind of live a different type of lifestyle and incorporate those things. So very important. Carrie mentioned also about the liver and about how Slim and Sassy helps to cleanse the liver. Well, that's one of the biggest things. I mentioned this last week, and it's so interesting to me, I guess probably because I do work, you know, with cardiology, but sugar actually stimulates the liver to produce cholesterol. So oftentimes it's not really the fat in our diet. Yeah, the bad fat is bad. We don't want the trans fats. But it's the sugar that stimulates the production of that cholesterol and ends up making us have high cholesterol levels, which then can, of course, you know, lead to some heart issues.
Wow, that makes sense.
I mean, isn't it crazy how, I mean, sugar is just so bad. I mean, it's just horrible. Turns on that, you know, inflammation in your body, which again is not good. The least amount of inflammation we have, the better off we are. Most of the foods to avoid are really, you can see that these two kind of issues go hand in hand. A lot of the essential oils and supplements that Carrie talked about that are good for maintaining a healthy blood pressure are good for maintaining a healthy cholesterol. So a lot of this kind of overlaps because we're talking about the whole kind of cardiovascular system. But one thing with cholesterol is conventional meats. You know, a lot of people don't think about the quality of the meat that they're putting into their body. If you can get a grass-fed meat, you know, or if it's chicken, you know, free-range organic chicken, that's where, if you're going to choose to spend your dollars, allocate your dollars to certain organic foods, then go for the meats first, the meat. And if you consume dairy, because that's where, you know, that's where you can make the biggest impact, I would say. Yes, fruits and vegetables, you know, we don't want to, you know, be consuming fruits and vegetables that are high in pesticides, but really the meats are the first thing that you should really focus in on. Conventional meats have higher levels of trans fats. Okay, so again, really important and can help with maintaining healthy cholesterol levels. Incorporating more omegas. We talked about avocados, nuts, seeds, high fiber. I mean, high fiber diets are one thing that has been proven to help, you know, maintain a healthy cholesterol. So flax seeds, things like lentils, chickpeas, you know, more beans, black beans, and also maybe some oats, like, you know, I would suggest gluten-free oats, but if you don't have a gluten sensitivity, you know, that's fine. I mean, you can totally just do regular oats, which oats are gluten-free anyway, but a lot of times they're made or in a plant where there are other things containing gluten, so they can't be labeled that way. Garlic and onions, interestingly, I love garlic and onions. I love to cook them. I put them in about everything. They contain sulfur, which actually helps to cleanse the blood vessels. So that's kind of an interesting little fact for you. So if you like garlic and onions, keep eating them, okay?
No worries here.
Yeah, right, exactly. Turmeric. We talked last week about the anti-inflammatory effects of turmeric and how good those were. So incorporating some turmeric, maybe into on your eggs in the morning, some dried turmeric, or into a smoothie would be great. And then I just want to lastly give you a few kind of food swap items, because we always want to give you kind of solutions to help with, if you think, well, I need to eliminate this. Well, what am I going to replace it with? Because it's something that I love. And that's not what we're about. We're not about deprivation and, never eat this. We need to, and we like to help you understand ways and things that you can incorporate that can still be very satisfying to you, but just in a little bit of a healthier way. Mm-hmm. Okay, so try, instead of frying foods, really try baking, grilling, which is, can have delicious flavor. So just try to get away from the fried foods. Swapping out, if you like to use mayo a lot, mayonnaise, either getting an avocado or an olive oil based mayonnaise, or swapping it in some recipes for Greek yogurt. It still provides that kind of creamy, nice flavor. Sour cream. Greek yogurt is also a great swap for sour cream. We talk about that a lot, and that's what I always use. Adding ground flaxseed to your baking items. So like if you have a pancake mix or a muffin mix, just add some flaxseed, a tablespoon or two of flaxseed, ground flaxseed in that, and that's going to bump up your fiber content, and it's really not going to change the flavor a lot. I mean, it's still going to taste good. Okay, dairy. If you do choose to eat dairy, then you want to, and we're talking about cheeses here mainly, then you want to make sure that you get some sharp flavored cheeses so you can use less of them. Parmesan cheese. If you get real Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, that you have to grate off, that has delicious flavor and you don't need to use that much. Or even just like a sharp cheddar would be better, because you're not having to use as much to really get, satisfied and get the flavor. Fruits, I want to just mention this because I see so many people, and my kids have done this. People have given my kids fruit in like a cup that's like in like syrup. I mean, it's basically just loaded in sugar. And I think a lot of people really think that's healthy because it is, quote, a fruit. And I mean, I've even had people give it to my kids and think it was healthy. And I'm like, oh, no. Like, we don't need any of that because it's better than some other things. But I guess it's better than a candy bar. But I mean, they're loaded with just this sugary syrup. So try to get my point here is try to get more of a fresh fruit versus those that are in cans or cups. Mm-hmm. And then one last thing, oatmeal. Oatmeal is great. It's very heart healthy. It's great for maintaining a healthy cholesterol, but try to avoid buying those packets. You can make your own and make it so delicious and so much better for you just by adding a little bit of honey for sweetness, or you could add maple syrup for sweetness, and then put some nuts and some fresh fruits in it. Those packets are loaded typically with sugar and chemicals and things that you don't want. So sometimes people think they're making a healthy choice by buying packets of oatmeal. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's better than if you were eating like a sausage biscuit or something. Pop-Tart, there you go.
That's like my pet thing.
Pop-Tarts. Who doesn't like Pop-Tarts? Anyway, but yeah, just making some of those very simple swaps, you will really begin to see results. So I hope that this was helpful to you guys. All month long, as I mentioned, we are going to be talking around the topic of heart health in general. Next week, we'll talk about sleep and emotional wellness and how those can really have an effect on our heart and how we can kind of make ourselves a little bit healthier by incorporating some healthier habits in those areas. And then we'll finish up in the fourth week with activity and weight management and give you some key tools that you can use to help in those areas as well. Please let us know if you have any questions, and also if there are topics that you would like to hear more on and have us cover. We'd love to know those. So
there's a link in the comments so you can put your question in there.
Okay, awesome. Mm-hmm. Thank you for doing that. You have anything else you want to add, Carrie?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say, if this is overwhelming, sometimes, we want to give information because some people may be a little bit, I guess, further along in their journey than other people. So it's hard to, gauge kind of how much information to give and not give, I guess. But at the end of the day, just eat more fresh foods. Like, that's really all this is about. Just try to eat from the perimeter of the grocery store, a lot of times they say, and that's very true. Try to not to go down the aisles very much. Try to buy less things from a box. Just get in your kitchen a little bit more. It's just little things like that make it less overwhelming if you just think that way. And I promise you'll see the results long term if you just simply eat more whole foods and fresh foods. So I hope this information has helped. For sure, if you have either one of these issues, just swapping out one or two of the things that we talked about will hopefully help you go in that direction of decreasing either blood pressure or cholesterol. So
definitely. Carrie, let me say one more thing before you finish. I do want to say this, if you do have an issue with blood pressure, cholesterol, certainly you want to be working with a medical provider. We're not here to, we're here to give you some alternative solutions that you can start to incorporate that will positively affect those areas. But certainly you need to be monitoring those things and working with a provider. So I just want to make sure that, everybody does that. And then one other thing that we have created is a support group. If you are, on our page here and you think, like Carrie said, some of this is overwhelming and I don't even know, sometimes I want to ask a question, but I'm not sure about putting it here. Of course, you can private message us, but we do have a support group now where it's more of a closed group, and you can feel free to post any question. Maybe you feel a little safer posting in a group like that, and there's some good conversation in there. So I think the link is,
you go on our page. If you look over there to the left, there'll be kind of a list of like email and all kind of different stuff. I forgot what all was over there, but the last one is groups. And if you click on that, it's right in there. So you can just click on the link and request to be added, and we'll get you added in there.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us, and we will look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great